It's the OVGA podcast.
Welcome to episode 5 of the OVGA podcast. For those of you watching or listening for the first time, we have a Facebook community group called Original Video Game Artwork Collectors. We also have a website called originalvideogameart.com where you can find more information on video game art and the artists. Over to you, Dan.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about everybody's favorite topic, or at least a topic that's been around a really, really long time, bad box art. Like most of what we do on, the podcast is going to be, positive in general with respect to, the artwork and the artist, but there's no denying that a few stinkers have kind of come and gone. And so today, for fun, we thought we'd kind of go through some of those. And, back in the day, I used to wonder why this topic kind of persisted so much because, it's like, it's something people love to talk about. There's always these lists, on various internet sites, various game sites that go through and try to find or give their take on what the worst boxes are. And I used to think, that's kind of like a negative outlook. Why do people do that? But at the end of the day, like, I think it's fun and it's easy to talk about. Trying to explain why something is the best is difficult, especially if you're not kind of familiar with artwork or collecting artwork or whatever. But everybody can talk about the worst stinkeroo that they've ever seen. So that's what we're going to do today. And, if you haven't seen it, pull up the Angry Video Game Nerd series from 2015. It's absolutely delightful. He did a 25 video series for the 25 days of December leading up to Christmas, where every day he would highlight a different piece of bad box art. And some of those videos are just to die for. Very, very funny. And so as today's show and tell, because every episode we like to show an original, kind of on camera as part of a show and tell. As today's show and tell, I've got behind me I started saying the bad box art, so I guess for Hammer and Harry behind me. And that was number 22 or 23 or something on AVGN's list. And I've never laughed so hard as when I watched that video. And I've never been prouder to own the original than after he made fun of it, because it's like my eyes were watering. So today,
now hang
we're
on,
going to show.
But before you bring it up, hang on.
Okay.
So, before we fully dive in, right? Little background, little intro. I do. Dan's talking about why talk about bad box art. So easy, it's low hanging. But as we all prep for it, I think one thing that kind of came through is being people that appreciate art, buy art, collect art. I do think we'll see things a little differently, hopefully. But also a bit of like, why? How did that bad box art happen? Right? Like, you'll see the same company put out a real stinker, and then they turn things around, and that same company's putting out better box art later. And there's a certain rhythm, a pattern to this that I think is going to kind of come out naturally, hopefully through this conversation. And hopefully, right, us talking about box art, something we love, will give you guys all something to take away from it too. But all right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? In the fun part is everybody can have an opinion and nobody can be wrong. And some of the stuff that I may detest, you may like, and maybe we'll strap on the gloves and, have a debate about it. But it'll be fun either way.
All right. So now over to Hammer and Harry.
Is this a stinker or is it a good one?
Well, I'm proud to own it, but it's here it is. As AVGN points out, he's got this gigantic hammer that's like bigger than his body. These guys are just randomly kind of falling off to the side. This poor guy's jackhammering the top of a building for some reason. Like, it's a bit of an odd scene, but life is good when you've got the iron belt buckle. He's got the kind of crazy eyes and the asymmetrical expression. Ibrahim, you had guessed that maybe Stallone was used
Possibly.
as a who knows, because he's got the headband and the asymmetrical smile, so maybe. But at the end of the day, as a talented artist, Scott McDougall did Super Punch Out and some others, but his best work, I think, was when and all of his other work that I can think of that I'm aware of in the game field anyway, it was all an animated style. And this is a more realistic, so I don't know if he was going for the crazy eyes or if it just didn't suit his style or what. But nonetheless, here it is. It's a box art for one of the rarest PAL games, well-known title. And, it's just a lot of fun one way or the other. And I don't want to say more about it because I want each and every person listening to pull up the AVGN episode for this and listen to it because it's awesome.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Awesome.
Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, no, like I say, my mental, like my pride meter on owning it went from like here to here after that video because it's hilarious. Okay, so that was Hammer and Harry. Now,
So I think we've got a bit of a screen share going on here, and we'll kind of load that up in the video. And I think there's no way to start a conversation about bad box art. And we showed an original there, but if really getting into what is the bad box art that everyone talks about, I think has to be our starting place. Is going to be the first box art for the first Mega Man game in the US. So I've got it up here, and I'll turn it over to others to kick off with.
it's so notorious that you just have to mention it, right? There's no getting around it. Like the conversation's going to end up here one way or the other, so we might as well just start there, right? It's a cluster.
But I am of the opinion that this could not be the final. I mean, surely this is just like a concept and a sketch. But I mean, I know there's a story and you're going to tell us, Dan, but dear God, how did they go with this?
Well, I think it is the final, and I think we'll get into why. And let's actually do that first before we pick it apart, because look, that's easy to do. But why don't we touch on the history first? Because very early on in my sort of art collecting journey, or whatever you want to call it, me and another collector bought some artwork from Joe Morisi, who was the VP of one of the VPs of Capcom, and he just had them hanging in his house. He had DuckTales and Rescue Rangers and Darkwing Duck and some others, and so we purchased those from him. And so at some point I asked him the story, and he might have said this at other times on the internet by now, I'm not sure, but I asked him the story on, what exactly happened with Mega Man. And the story, as he told it to me at the time, was that Mega Man was the first title that they were using American box art for. So it was the first time that Capcom USA was responsible for coming up with its own box art, and that it wasn't reusing Japan box art. So, if we go to Sanford, do you want to pull up the chronological list of releases? This is just a selected list of Capcom releases with the dates and the artist and whatever. And, we see at the top, 1942. Okay, that was Akira Yasuda's first work for Capcom. That was Japanese. The next two, Ghosts of Goblins and Trojan, those match exactly to the Japanese arcade flyers that way predated the NES releases. Section Z, that used the Famicom. So these Japanese. We get the Mega Man. They had to do their own. They weren't prepared. They didn't figure out that they didn't have box art ready until 24 hours before the ship date. So they had no time. And as I asked them, who who was the artist? Like who prepared this? And he didn't know. All that he remembered was that it was the friend of a staffer. So it wasn't even someone directly at Capcom. It wasn't even, I don't believe, a professional illustrator. If I recall correctly, it was someone going through art school that was a friend of someone at Capcom that was able, as a favor, to crank something out literally overnight. So, the reason it looks like a hot mess in an 8th grade art project is because it wasn't a professional illustrator. It was an amateur, maybe with a little bit of training, but an amateur with a huge time constraint. And so, you end up what looks like completely amateur work. I mean, you've got a futuristic cityscape with random palm trees. You've got yellow bumps in the ground that make no sense. You've got this asymmetrical, like the body pose is just legendary. Like
his thighs.
Oh man, I mean, everywhere you look, the eyes cry out, right?
God.
And then the oddly enough, the face has this sort of like sensitive rendering almost. Like maybe he spent a little more time on the face and whatever. But I mean, this is a non-professional artist slapping it out in no time to get things ready to ship because they had to put something on the box.
So what blows my mind, though, is when I looked up the release dates, right? Mega Man, as far as I can tell, pretty much got a simultaneous release in Japan, the US, and Europe. And so it wasn't like, a lot of times we'll see, Japan and US, maybe, US lags several months, half a year, or Europe is way far behind. So you can kind of get it. But so Mega Man is also known for its Europe box art, which I think this is killer. This thing, I love this thing.
What are the dates, Sanford? Because I hadn't thought of that.
They are all December, right? So actually, US might have been 2 days before Japan. Like it was kind of weird. It was December 15th, 17th, and then Europe might have just been the month of December. So I view it as, it was a simultaneous release, which is probably, some of this is going to be, Capcom USA being different from Capcom Europe. It's possible, I'm just guessing here, you guys can speculate with me, that Capcom Europe hires an artist and somehow they only have the rights to use that image in Europe. I don't know. Or just no one thought to call all the other regions. Now it could be a look here that Mattel, something to do with the rights and publishing in Europe that they couldn't or wouldn't have considered.
They're probably just distribution, because Mattel, like being in Canada, I know that early NES games in Canada were all distributed by Mattel as well, but all they did was distribute.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's bizarre, right? So you've got here's your Japanese box art for it. And I think you can say, someone can make a decision, like it sounds like they did, of, we want this to be our first title with US box art. Or maybe they didn't want to, then they realized, 24 hours ahead of time, we got to do something. But I mean, Europe got a little bit of notice. Europe knew what was going on. And, this is what we have here for the US.
Yeah, I mean, someone dropped the ball.
Yeah, someone just dropped the ball in America. That's right. And by the time they figured it out, it must have, this is pre-internet, pre-email, pre-everything. I mean, there's no way you were going to get, even if you were going to call Europe on the phone and say, hey, get us a copy of that image so we can use it. It wasn't going to happen in time. So,
I mean,
somebody's ass was going to be on the line if it didn't ship for Christmas, right? Someone's ass was on the line. So
yeah, I guess as you think about it, being a December release, right? Yeah, I'm sure that's 100% in play, right? I mean, I presume they would have had to print this stuff earlier, right? So the 24 hours is 24 hours before it goes to the printer or all that stuff. You can't fuck that up. You can't delay it, because then it's coming out in January, coming out in February. You miss your Christmas buying season. I think what impresses me is that something like this didn't kill the Mega Man franchise.
No kidding. That anyone bought it at all.
Yeah, I mean,
But I mean, it's 1987. There's not so many titles out yet. You know, at that time, there's about 100 NES titles out. So, you know, there's a little more fanfare around each one. But yeah, it's surprising. And it must have just been on the back of the good word of mouth of the actual game that the few people that bought it or had, you know, blind uncles buy this for them that weren't able to see the box art.
Yeah.
That the word of mouth just spread, you know.
I mean, as a kid, you'd look at the back also, and you know, so you would see the gameplay. But what surprised me is the gun there. You know, putting in the gun. That's how
See,
that
actually,
got past them.
Oh, well, I mean, they
I
didn't
mean,
have
again,
time to say
24
no.
hours.
I think it's
Yeah.
more how did it get past them the second time, right? For Mega Man 2.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, also with the gun, I mean, that, you know, they approved it. They thought it was okay. This point, I get this one. They're like, all right, you got 6 hours to paint it. We've got an hour to say okay, and then we're off to go.
Now imagine that this art student was able to retain the art and get it back, and they submitted it for their final. What grade did it get?
Yeah, I know, right?
Hey, actually, you know what? I think he gets an A+.
It
for
got
just,
published.
You know, no, it got published. It got seen by millions of fucking people. I mean, that's like, you know, you go through, sometimes you see what artists put in their portfolios, right? And it's not always their best work. Sometimes it's like their most visible work, because that's a big deal.
Oh, for sure.
What is that spider web thing by the sky bridge? Like,
I thought it was a satellite.
A satellite? Like, what the
I vote Ferris wheel.
Ferris wheel.
You ride the Ferris wheel to see the, you know, the end of the world down here.
Right. Oh, God.
Or maybe
and
this is
there's
a
like
satellite
18
dish.
different perspectives going on on the left there, right? Like, you just,
you know, here's the thing, right? If you're short on time, why not go a bit simpler, right? Like, why do all the fucking background? Right? Like,
because you want to make it awesome. Because you're a student, you don't know what to leave out. You don't know what to leave out. You don't know that simpler is better yet. So you're going all out, balls to the wall, trying to make everything fucking awesome, and you land on your fucking face.
Imagine the sweat on this person's like eyebrow.
Yes. No, they're done at 5:30 in the morning. They knock off to bed thinking, job well done.
So, all right, the last bit on this for me, right, is I am still surprised that the artist hasn't been identified, right? Despite the story, okay, art student of somebody who worked for Capcom, calls in a favor. Okay, you know, I get it. That it hasn't been identified. You know, like, I can see, okay, hey, nobody wants to own up to this, but like, I don't know. It's at this point, it's got to be a certain bit of fun notoriety. You know, there's got to be someone who said, "Oh yeah, I painted the box art for Mega Man," and I don't know how that just hasn't trickled out and become known. I don't know. That's always it's got enough notoriety. You would think it would happen by now.
It is a little surprising, especially given the fact the box is signed, and lots of people have tried to decipher the signature, but it's totally illegible. And you know, so yeah, there in the corner. But I mean, that could literally be anything. It just looks like 8 random letters mushed together.
Yeah.
Well, the door is open for anyone listening. If you want to get an epic piece, try and find the artist and get this piece, because it's valuable.
The legs, like, look at that right thigh to the knee. Like,
well, to Ibrahim's point, I think these are the thighs that inspired Chun-Li.
Yeah, right.
So, you know, but I could kind of see this being something for OVGA or just generally the community, right? Like, I don't know, this could be kind of cool to put out almost like a bounty, right? On like, hey, what kind of bounty? There's the bounty for the artwork, but even just the bounty for, let's identify this. You know, not for now for this conversation, but just kind of like of all the things in history that we would care about for box art, identifying this piece kind of seems up there for me. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, somewhere out there, there's a now plumber that was a former art student that's got a cool piece of history behind them.
Yeah.
Or they binned it right away.
Well, no, I said a plumber. I'm talking about the person. The art itself, as you say, I wouldn't be surprised if it was, not a proud. I don't know if it wasn't hung on to. If it wasn't hung, it could have been, but maybe it wasn't. So,
Yeah, I'd almost care more about the attribution than the art itself.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, the art. I mean, if the art did exist, right, that would be incredible.
yeah, it's an epic piece to have, even though it's a piece of garbage.
So I think as we tee up some of the next ones, there's a different NES one I had thought I would go to next, but actually I kind of want to stay on Capcom. And so the one that I kind of want to pull up, it's a different end of the spectrum, right? But Willow, and this is one where a little bit of context, right? So if you pull back up this this kind of layout chart, right? So you've got Mega Man late 1987. Okay, then starting in 88, you start seeing some pieces from Frank Sirocco, Mark Erickson gets picked up. And it's after these Mark Erickson pieces. So they've already worked with Frank Sirocco and Mark Erickson. I don't think I'm trying to think if there was Willow and Codename Viper, right? And the one was in
or maybe Legendary
1989.
Wing, or no, you're right, Codename Viper. Sorry.
There's definitely more stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's missing from here, right? But it was either mid 1989 or early 1990. Actually, no. Sorry, I'm meandering. Both of these would have been before Greg Winters did Street Fighter 2010, right? So after Frank Sirocco, after Mark Erickson, before Greg Winters comes Willow. And, a lot of the stinkers that we're going to talk about here today were from small publishing companies, right? Capcom's a big fucking deal. And they've had their Mega Man woes. They've already hired a couple other, now top name illustrators for game art and otherwise. And then comes Willow. And it's look, I know you're working on the likeness of the actor Warwick Davis, but this is not him.
He's got some nice lips.
Yeah, and so what, and Val Kilmer up here doing something. Likeness was not the specialty of this artist, and some of this comes down to image rights and other things, right? But this is December 1989. There we go. I had it in the file name. Could have looked at that. But you look at here's the movie poster that John Alvin does in 1988. And John Alvin, incredible, respected artist. He's getting the likeness as it should be for Val Kilmer and Warwick Davis, and it's an awesome piece of art. And you say, okay, well, look, they Capcom doesn't have the rights to John Alvin's art. Okay, can't use it. I get it. But then you go over and you say, okay, also 1988, here is the Mindscape puts out the DOS box art. And basically it's just a repaint, right? John Alvin does his original, different artist here says, okay, we're just going to copy the layout and just repaint it, right? So I think that's what happened, right? So you can kind of get around some of the limitations there. Maybe, could be wrong. Europe, a riff on the same thing. Japan, right? But this is what we get in the US.
I think the US was going through a hard time.
It is puzzling, right? Like you've righted the ship and then you steer it back into an iceberg. I mean, the face, like that's such an unattractive face as the focal point of the image of the entire box. That's supposed to be promoting your game. That's supposed to be moving units. It's supposed to be getting these, you said December again, Christmas goodies underneath people's trees. I mean, nobody wants to open up and see that, I mean, that one character, I haven't seen the movie in a bajillion years, so I don't know what the character's called, but it is just disturbing.
He is Willow.
Willow. Okay, he
Yeah.
haunts my dreams. I
Yeah.
mean, he looks like a psychopathic midget.
And you know, if I and hey, like you know, Warwick is a shorter guy, right? Those are the roles he fills. But like, I look at the movie poster. Yeah, I want to see this movie, right? I look at the box art for the computer version, the Europe, the Japan version.
Charming, all charming.
Yeah,
You know, I'm gonna kind of disagree with you. Like, I don't really like John Alvin's piece that much. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think the Val Kilmer likeness is all that great. The other two are okay, and like, it's okay, it's acceptable, it works, but it does nothing for me. You know,
Okay.
if that original kind of came to market, I would be very kind of uninterested. It's
yeah. I guess I put it this way:
meh.
it doesn't turn me off, right?
Not at all. Yeah, it doesn't turn me off, but it doesn't excite me at all.
Whereas this, you're kind of like almost that.
That's a straight turn off. That's
burn
like,
it.
give me a bucket. I need to heave. I'm going to be with the bucket for a while. You know, get me some water. I need to rehydrate.
You know, the
God.
thing that gets me with this one is that they don't allow the sword to go past the border, but they allow Willow's little baguette
cane.
to go to go break the barrier there. Like,
And I know, and it just looks like he's holding like, okay, I don't even. It looks like he's holding number 2. Like, what the hell is that? It doesn't even look like wood.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So where are we going next, guys, for box art?
And you
So
know,
many possibilities.
I mentioned at the top that like when it comes to bad art, like it's very easy to discuss. I mean, here we are. We're talking about turds. We're talking about midgets that haunt our dreams. I mean, it's you don't have to get very kind of art technical about it when it's something this bad.
So the one,
But Capcom found their feet. Like after that, as you said, Capcom found their feet.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the Winners of Martin stuff that came afterwards is terrific. Now, this is my personal favorite. You know, most people, when they think of bad box art for the NES, go straight to Mega Man. This is where my mind goes to straight every single time, because this is just the most colossal of colossal clusters. Like, and the harder you look around the image, the more it rewards you. You know, like there's just surprise. There's like a pot of gold around every corner. You know, like if you start with the figure, you know, like, why is his armor made of gold that would be incredibly heavy and soft, or is it like butter? Like, why is he yellow? The outstretched leg is twice as long as the other one. There's no way he would be able to stand. The woman looks like Cousin Vinny in drag. She's got an arm that's 8 feet long, but the elbow is by the shoulder. Like, everything's two-dimensional. And then, you know, your golden butter knight is dueling off against a screaming green chicken that's got these talons that are, you know, as long as its legs. It's breathing fire that for some reason is bouncing off the sword. Explain that one to me. It's so like it looks like a flying rat that hasn't, or flying, I don't know, cat, dog, whatever, that hasn't been fed in 3 months. Like it's so scrawny. And just when your mind is exploding from everything you've already seen, take a good look at the building in the background. I don't know what it's called, like that you know how the defensive walls of the building, can we zoom in on the building? You know how the defensive walls of the building, like before the towers go up, have those bays cut out so that the defenders can kind of stand and defend.
Yeah.
Follow that line with the mouse. It's completely fucking uneven. It's like this. It's like the castle's not straight. Take a good look at the windows. None of them are rectangles. Like, look at the tower on the right. It's tilted right. It's not even straight up and down. Look at the roof on the tower. That's tilted way right. There's a flag on the top of the tower where it makes no sense to have a flag. How would you change that flag? You'd have to get onto the roof of fucking death and fall to your doom to be able to go change that flag. You'd want to have it somewhere you could fucking reach it. Then, you've got, if you look at the tower on the left, it's actually thicker up top than it is down below. Like, it's actually getting thicker as it goes up. Like, this building would not stand. This thing would be fallen over. There's no way that thing stands. So, and then, like, just like, again, my mind's already exploding. And then I look at, I guess it's the left hand of the knight and the arm, like that. The arm is supposed to be in a suit of armor, but there's no articulation to the armor, and it's just this blob shape, which would be impossible. And then zoom in on the hand. The hand is the biggest gnarled mess you've ever seen. Like, it's a group of sausages. And when you think, your mind's as blown as it can be, look at the hilt of the sword. It's completely asymmetrical. It's coming out of the right side. Like, it is just so bad. And then on the helmet, you've got these rivets on the back of the helmet where you don't need rivets there. There's nothing that's like, you're not swinging the faceplate open there or anything. Like, nothing about it makes sense. And then you go back to the girl and you're like, why are you trying to rescue her? That's Cousin Vinny and Drag, man.
Now, what? And you know what makes it even worse? You take all the time spent on the front of this box art.
Oh, no.
And you go and paint a fucking back box art. And you basically have...
It's incredible.
Part 2 of your chicken dragon, right? You've got the same shitty claws that are as long as the legs, and you're like, all right, let's do it orange, and let's just put 4 fucking legs down. It's like when a kid draws, when I draw, because I'm a shitty artist, when I draw like a cow or something, right? I start with my kind of circular chunky body, and I just draw 4 legs coming down from it. That's pretty much what happened here. And I can't believe
those feet are hands. Look at them. They're hands. They're not feet. They're hands. He's standing on his hands.
And they, and it wasn't like, hey, let's take twice as long and make a nice front box art. They're like, no, I'm going to spend half the time and do 2 bad pieces.
Yes.
And, my screaming chicken, just to really put the fear of God into anyone looking at this box art, to impress upon them how fierce my screaming chicken is on the back. On the front, I've got this neck that defies all description, but just to remind everyone that this is a poltergeist chicken, I'm going to have it facing the opposite direction of the body, just so that the head can kind of swing around in 360-degree circles and freak everyone the F out.
Well, it's made of lava.
It is.
I don't know if you noticed that. I mean, it's just its body is made of flowing lava.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I think you guys missed something on the castle. On the bottom right side, he's drawn an actual garage, a modern garage. Like, if you notice it, that is a garage to park your car.
There you go. That's what every good castle needs.
Oh, you know what? The other thing, hang on, Dan, you were talking about the knight saving the princess.
Why?
He's already got the princess. Why is he still here?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, maybe he went to the castle and then he, rescued her and he's trying to get away and his leg grew a foot and now he's encumbered with his better sword.
So part of this story, right, is we saw this a bit with Capcom and Mega Man first US box art, right? Big fucking publisher, big fuck up. Seta, their US operations, who fucking knows, right? Real small time. Eventually, right, they write their own ship. Kendo Rage, Wizard of Oz. It's another one I'm blanking on. Both of those done by Greg Winters. So later, Seta, figured out the right design firm to hire, how to get a good illustrator. But before they get to that, I mean, you've got Cuballion. And this is, another one by Seta. And the mice are shittily drawn. The cheese, it looks like cheese. The color spasm, I just don't know who are they trying to sell to.
They're trying to, I guess, play on the cheesy little wordplay there. The puzzle game to choose. You gotcha.
Yeah.
I will say, it's better than Castle of Dragon. At least it's not taking itself as seriously. It's just as bad, maybe, or almost, but because it's a lighter tone, it's not as offensive, but there's so much going on. Like this is one of these times where you should have just cut half of this out and it would be cleaner to look at, and less offensive. Part of it is just like it's a neon sign with 37 things coming at you and your eye can't tell what it's even supposed to look at.
Yeah, I think if it was just the mice and the cheese, it'd be a different conversation. Shitty, but not egregious.
Yeah.
The three mice that are kind of featured in the beginner or in the middle here, Mr. Mouse, they're all wearing clothing. Yet up top, the one pushing the head off is in the nude.
That's the party mouse.
And much skinnier than the others as well.
Yeah, right.
Well, he didn't get the cheese, right? These ones got the cheese. They bulked up a little bit.
He's tearing the house down.
Yeah.
Well, he's so ticked off that he's shoving the N off the logo.
Mm-hmm.
Or onto the logo, right? It's not yet in place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. To me, it looks like he's pushing.
Maybe. Yeah. All right. Ibrahim, where are we going next?
Well, if you want to stay on NES, if you want to go to NES, the Palamedes by Hot B.
Ooh, tasty.
Let's see.
There was some really great decision making when creating that cover.
Yeah, what is going on? Honestly, now this is by a publisher, Hot B, and in Europe, they had a different publisher, so they got a much better box art. I think it was by Takara in Europe, and I have no explanation for this. I don't even know what the game is. Are those cubes humans? What's happened here? They have a cube for a head, but they have a human tongue and hands and arms and legs. But where's the rest? It just I don't get it. And then all of them are different. If you look at the yellow one, he's got glasses on. So it's are these characters? I don't want to choose that one with glasses. What the F is going on? Are they diving into a swimming pool or into this guy's mouth? It makes absolutely no sense. I don't get it.
Look how they all have no pants.
Yeah, and then this guy is, that face is looking up somebody's crotch. Is he a perv? Yeah, it's so messed up. I don't get it. And
I think he's got
a very disturbing expression.
He's got no neck, right? So the arms are pretty much coming out of the bottom of the jaw, right? That perspective.
Yeah. I will say this about it, because of the fact that it's just so crazy, there's something that I kind of like about it, because it's just so over the top nuts that it kind of makes me chuckle and smile. I can't truly hate it, because it's kind of in spite of itself fun for some reason. You've got these legless dice or whatever, and the creepy guy, and also just going back many years on Nintendo Age, there was a few instances of stuff behind the scenes that was taken down, where some inappropriate pictures were taken by people who won't be named, that had just covered their junk with a Palamedes box and nothing else, right? So if you go back far enough in NES collecting history, this title has got some sort of fun, history that I won't get into publicly, but was, it makes me kind of laugh when I think of it. So I can't hate this box.
So what Dan is saying is this is his grail.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
Yeah.
So I would actually love to own that. I would love to own that.
Yeah. It's the title looks fine, right? If I like,
title is fine.
Title is fine. It's got blocks. It's got the name. It's got 2-3 levels. Like, you could almost just put that on a blank background.
Yeah, that's
and sell
exactly
this title.
Less is more sometimes.
Some permutation of a human centipede with these dice. And
or if you had the block logo and you had the human dice coming down because they're fun and crazy and whatever, and you just got rid of the pervy realistic guy.
Yep.
You've got a fun image now. You've got a kid-friendly sort of, why are they not wearing pants? But hey, this is kind of wacky and fun image. And it's the juxtaposition of like the realistic airbrush style Pervo and the, loosely rendered dice people up top that is just so startling.
Well, I was thinking that maybe the man at the boy at the bottom there could have been painted first, and then everything else was added on top, like denied. Like, this is the first attempt just with the guy holding the dice.
Possibly.
And then just like, nah, that's not going to work. You got to add more to this. Like, it needs to be more
could
playful.
Could be 2 layers for all we know.
Yeah.
True.
Just when you say the juxtaposition of it, like the yin and the yang.
Yeah. Now, this, I think I have confidence this is done by the same artist. Hot B, Ness, kind of getting one release then the other. And it's just like, how do you keep going back to the same guy?
Yeah.
Like, Dan, you're a fishing guy. I don't know what entices a fishing game buyer, but like, this boy,
it's not that.
This boy looks like 40 to me.
He looks so stressed out.
Well, I'd be stressed out too if there was a 18-pound bass about to jump in my lap. While I'm sitting in a room full of blue Jello, that's leaking out of my TV. Like, I'd be disturbed as well.
Oh, a realistic.
And to your point, right? Yeah, the ad copy right below the fish says "realistic?" ? Exclamation mark.
Yeah.
All right.
Only seeing is believing. He's terrified. He's probably wetting himself.
That's all the water.
And the fish, just the lack of skill and the airbrushing of the fish is just horrendous. There's nothing has been masked. There's no color blending worth a damn. The way the fish is jumping out of the TV is totally unrealistic. Like, at that arc of the jump, it would be going straight down, but it's intended to be coming at the viewer. Like, it's a train wreck. How do you go back to this guy's right?
What you almost say is, even as shitty as the fish is, this seems like something you photograph, right? You get a kid in a chair with a TV, photograph it, and then if you want to airbrush in some water, airbrush in the fish, like, this seems like a great opportunity to combine image and illustration instead of like this poorly rendered dresser.
Well, I'm not convinced that the kid isn't a photo that's been airbrushed on top of, like, the kid because the kid, there's a lot of kind of realistic aspects to the dimensions of the face and stuff, and the artist, I don't know that the same guy that drew that fish or painted that fish is painting that kid. Like, he might have painted over a photo of a kid there. I wouldn't be surprised by that.
You know what?
Did
Maybe they did do the same thing with the fish, but like you said, the angle is wrong, where he got a picture, a reference of a fish, and just rotated it to get it where he wanted to go, ruining it.
I don't know. I mean, look at that mouth. Look at the mouth of the like the fish's top lip is opening up. Like I don't know if you've ever, like seen bass, but like the top lip doesn't really move. It's the bottom lip. So when you see people, lifting one up, they'll grab it by the bottom lip because that's kind of where the hinge is, not on the top lip. But here it's like opposite to anatomy. You've kind of got the top lip opening up. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, it definitely could have been, but if so, then he's mucked about with the silhouette of it.
Yeah. Ooh.
Let's move on from this hot mess. Hot B or hot mess?
Hot B.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Coleman, Ibrahim, where are we headed next?
What's next on the docket?
What do we have? I think you could go to Raya Systems 4 games. So we could start with Rex Ronin.
Ooh, yeah. I overlooked this one. This was a good recommendation.
Yeah.
Or not recommendation. Ugh.
Actually, can you start with Captain Novolin? Because that's 92. This is 93.
Yeah. No,
So,
Captain, I got it.
right. Yeah. So Raya Systems, they came up with this brilliant idea of let's put out some very informative games. So they started with Captain Novolin, which is a game about how you can combat diabetes. And it's brilliant. So you play this game as Captain Novolin, and what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to avoid all the sugary sweets, and you're supposed to collect all of the healthy, fruit and vegetables, and dodge all the bad enemies. And after each level, it tells you how you scored, how your diabetes score is. That's basically the game, right? First of all, for them to come up with such a game is just like it's crazy. No kid wants to play this game, right? It's just so boring. I watched a playthrough and it's so repetitive. It's the same thing. And then they go to an artist and he comes up with this beautiful, amazing box art. Captain Novolin looks like some Californian hunky dude with sunglasses on, all beached and muscled up. And then you've got your enemies, the sweet packet, which looks more like a detergent box. You've got a red donut, which looks nothing like a donut, but it is in the game. That is a donut. And then you've got your soda pop with legs and teeth and nose and arms trying to attack you. It just
That's
this
a
is
soda
just,
pop.
I
Like,
think
was
so.
the guy 100? Because that's the old style.
pull
Like,
tab.
look at that's the pull tab.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the old style.
So
If you hadn't done your
I thought it was
research,
like a can
Ibrahim.
of evaporated milk.
Yeah, without your research, Ibrahim, I would have no fucking clue. Maybe I could have guessed a donut here.
I thought
No
it was a lifesaver.
Yeah, I was going lifesaver too. Yeah.
So that's what essentially this is. And Raya Systems thought, oh yeah, kids will love this game. It's how you can combat diabetes. When you start this game, there is a warning label that says do consult your doctor on how best to manage your diabetes. This game is you don't take this game as a guidance. They literally put a warning out there. They took it very seriously, and clearly they should not have. You're supposed to put out games for kids. This is clearly not it. This is just terrible.
So what this reminds me of is, that trend where you'll see it online. People will go to a thrift store, they'll buy kind of a shitty landscape painting, and then they'll paint in like modern stuff and monsters and bad guys, maybe some Pokemon. Then they'll like give it back to a thrift store, right? And they'll kind of like spruce these things up. I mean, this looks like someone took a thrift store painting and was like, all right, let's add in Captain Novolin and his sugary sweet enemies.
Ibrahim, to your point about the game kind of taking itself too seriously and whatever, and the warning about the game not being medical advice as a legal disclaimer, I'm reminded of the fact that there's been a copy or 3 or whatever of these Riot systems, and I think Captain Overland in particular games that have been in like a inside of a sleeve meant for doctors' offices.
Right.
So, I think at least some partial distribution or marketing or whatever of the game was to doctors' offices. So, maybe that's the reason why it sort of wasn't fun, was because it was being at least sometimes, presented it within the environment of an actual, doctor's place of work. So, but again,
That's
like,
interesting.
That is interesting.
maybe some doctors had super, like, how now you go to the doctor's office, and especially when it's for kids, they'll have like maybe like a tree fort with game systems in it or whatever, so all the kids can kind of go and kind of keep themselves occupied while they're bored waiting for their appointment. Maybe that's what this was. Maybe there were
The-
Super Nintendo.
There was there
Mm.
was a interactive Super Nintendo kiosk at that was I think it was a lot of dentists had it, so it could be that this was a game that went out there. And there was also the interactive console that was in a lot of hospitals, and that was a Super Nintendo. So it could be that they had some sort of deal and they distributed these copies to hospitals and dentist office. I can't imagine it's going to be many. It's not going to be hundreds of thousands, but yeah.
You
So
can
And then
sell
this
that
was,
at market rates or
This
whatever.
is 92. After this brilliant game that came out, they come out with Rex Ronan, Experimental Surgeon. Now, as you can see, the main character here is Dr. Rex Ronan. You could tell he's a surgeon because he's got that the hat and the mask, that COVID-19 mask, and it's the story is brilliant. There is this guy named Jake. Jake works for a tobacco company. At the same time, he smokes the cigarettes from this tobacco company. He falls ill and he has a chronic disease, and he's gonna die unless Dr. Rex Ronan can shrink himself down, go into his body, and kill all the disease that is in his body. The tobacco company Jake works for doesn't want Jake to survive, because if Jake survives, he's going to go on to, all the newspapers and media and say, don't smoke cigarettes, it's bad for you. So what this tobacco company does, they put all these little mini robots into Jake's body, and Dr. Rex Ronan has to fight all these robots at the same time to kill the disease. What you see on this box art is his intestines, or possibly his rectum, with blood vessels, and he's traveling through the body and he's fighting all these, all those green bacterias and diseases. And then
Did you
you get
destroy the bacteria? Yep, I wrecked them.
so I mean, again, Riot Systems coming up with a brilliant game. The idea, whoever was behind this is just, I don't know what they were thinking, but I mean, you see this box art as a kid and you just think, what on earth is that? A doctor, and then you have a spaceship. And if you don't know like the whole back history of what this game is, you just think, am I going through a tunnel? No, you're not. You're going through, Jake's rectum, and it's like, what is going on? And then what? And then on the left side, you've got like, what is that? A pole? A bridge? What on earth is that? Because it does not look like the robots that the tobacco company put into this guy's body. So I have no explanation for that. This makes no sense.
Is that really how the ship enters his body? Like,
it goes
are
through
you
his
just
mouth.
saying that through jest, or okay? Yeah,
No,
good.
I'm not. It's
No, I mean, the rectum part. Like, I hope that's a joke.
no. He goes through everything.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And what I want to know is, why is he an experimental surgeon? I mean, yeah, I guess being shrunk
He
to
hasn't got
tiny
his
size
degree.
is an experiment, but it's just, what?
It's crazy.
It's
but
like they didn't know how else to explain it. Like, it sort of helps you bridge the gap, though, because like I look at, He's clearly a surgeon. And then there's a whole bunch of weird shit going on. And then I read experimental. Oh, yeah, okay. I guess it's a weird experiment. Makes sense.
So
Guess I'm going to play it now.
Yeah.
what and maybe this is just because it's the Super Nintendo era, but I mean, I almost wonder if this had been in the NES era, if this would have been an unlicensed title, right? So you don't really see as many unlicensed things by the time you get to the Genesis, the Super Nintendo. But I mean, this has all the hallmarks of like the Wisdom Tree Bible games, where they're kind of like, all right, we're doctors, or we're we're going to try to make these games, and I don't know. It's just bizarre. Impressive that they got their little Nintendo Power plug on the front, which
I was just
somebody
reading
got
that.
suckered into, right? They're like, oh, Nintendo Power said it was both fun to
Informative.
play. Boom. I'm going to buy this for my kid.
So, yeah, some parent bought it on that basis and then felt horribly cheated when the kid complained about it the next day.
No.
If you ever play this game throughout, completely manage to finish it, one, you're crazy. Two, you'll get up to the credits and it says, thank you, Dr. So-and-so, for, the information. They actually got a doctor to give them some information on how to create this game. It's brilliant.
And then to bring it back to box art and what we know best, right? So Riot Systems puts out Captain Novolin 92, Rex Ronan 93, probably the same artist, maybe.
Yeah, I think
and then
so.
they kind of right the ship, right? They do 2 more games. Ibrahim, what are the names of those 2?
Bronchi, the Bronchosaurus, and then Packy and Marlin.
Right. And I don't have the images ready, but if you look them up, those are both by Scott McDougall, the same artist that did Hammer and Harry. They're fun, animated characters. If you got suckered into buying one of those games based on the box art, hey, you are completely innocent, right? It was well done art, would definitely sell the kids. This and Captain Novolin is definitely like a stay away situation.
Yeah.
Captain Novolin is epic. It is so bad.
It's good.
But let's move on. This is we've got other ones we want to get to, and we're kind of dragging here for time because there's a lot to go through with each one. So why don't we move on?
I kind of want to jump ahead to the world of unlicensed art, right? So there's a couple NES ones, and I'll kick this over to you, Dan.
Yeah, this is one that I kind of put forward because it's always one that, as I was collecting, a sealed NES early in the day, like I just found it offensive to have to actually pay for this to try and put together a set. I mean, the baby is so disturbing, and baby boomer, like that's a generational term. What's that got to do with? And then there's guys shooting guns, so maybe that's the boomer part of it, like boom boom. And then there's a baby, but you've got these giant spiders that are like bigger than the baby, and it's just so incredibly poorly rendered. Like there's really, for me, there's not even that much to say about it. I mean, it's just the roughest of outline and the roughest of airbrush shading, and is just an absolute train wreck, and it screams low budget. It screams that this is not put out by any kind of legitimate outfit. It makes me think that if there's a warranty on the game, that I'm never going to be able to collect on the warranty because the publisher is going to be out of business by the time I send in my self-addressed envelope. It's just like, look at those trees. Like they're all leaning at a 45-degree angle. They don't look like trees. It is an eyesore. And I'll kick it over to you guys. It hurts my soul.
I particularly like all the like white kind of misty thing that goes all over everything, basically. Yet it's not on the trees, arguably where it should be. Everything else is all misty and whited out, but the trees, like it's like that's where all the fog.
Well, right. So what is that white hazy effect trying to be? I mean, at the end of the day, I would have to think that, given that it's a kind of an outline on the baby and on the snakes and spider and whatever, there would have to be like a light reflection, and there is a light gun. But to your point, like if the light from that gun was like incredibly bright or something, that it was casting illuminating on one side and casting shadow on the other, then the light effect is on the wrong side. Like the snake should be in shadow then, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just
shouldn't have done the belly.
The person that, and I don't like to hack on artists because mostly they're incredibly talented, and I can't draw or paint for crap. And there's so many good reasons to talk about the good in the artwork, but this is just a bad artist. I'm sorry.
Okay. I mean, this one, and I don't mind putting the artist out there, right? I mean, so this is one that, Color Dreams and Wisdom Tree, kind of the relationship between the companies, small budget, lots of titles, a lot of in-house kind of stuff. So Dan Burke is an artist that did most of them, and this one is actually done by
a relative of mine,
Steve Burke. Yeah, maybe some of yours, relative to yours, Coleman, right? So Steve Burke, younger brother
it's
of
your
Dan
fault,
Burke,
Coleman.
cranks this one out. But I mean, bad unlicensed art is just a theme, right? So like this is from Color Dreams, American Video Entertainment, AVE had a world of terrible art.
Who wants to rescue that princess, eh?
No, not me. I'm out.
No,
I don't even want the fish.
This isn't a mermaid. This is the siren, that sinks your ship.
Oh.
No, I mean,
do you see her? The reflection. The reflection looks nicer. Like, look at the reflection in the bubble. It actually looks nicer than her face, and it's like,
you're right.
Less jawline. So we don't have to go deep on all that stuff, but look at the fucking title, right? Mermaids of Atlantis, the riddle of the magic bubble. I mean, I know we're bashing on art, but I mean, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
I mean, so you see,
and there's a volcano? Like, what the
underwater volcano? Well, there are underwater volcanoes, but it's something.
Cool.
Maybe that's how Atlantis was destroyed. Mm-hmm. And maybe there was some sort of toxic pollution from that led to the deformed, mangled fish with bad DNA, and human mouths and eyes, and clams with giant eyes, and
I'm sure the artist thought it through.
Yeah, and now we've got rapist dolls. Take it away.
Oh God. There's some we can just put it up on the screen. I mean, this is just.
I must say one thing: the orange troll is better than the pink troll, because the pink troll, his head doesn't line up. Something's off. At least the orange one is like, it works.
But this...
Ibrahim, you're right, but I feel like you're
he's backwards actually. No, he's
you know what I mean?
No, the pink troll, I think that's his back, and his head is like he's done a 360.
Well, I think the problem is you're not allowed to draw the junk, right? So you do the body outline, and you're like, well, I know how I could make this look like a front. No chest. No tits, please. Just
no shoulders.
Need a blank canvas there.
Ibrahim, I salute you for noticing that one figure was better than the other, because I can't even get that far.
Now,
I
know what they did, right?
That says hidden treasure.
Yeah. Oh, hey, maybe they're talking about the dolls. Whoa, hey. Because their treasure is hidden.
Yeah. Oh. And you know what they did, though, to distract from the bad box art? I'm pretty sure that this game came with a troll, right? Like
yes,
I saw some pictures online of like,
yes, it did.
Right here, right, a little teeny troll thing. So they're like, oh, the parent is like, which game do I choose from? Well, this game comes with a bonus toy. So, yep.
Just to clarify, so there are copies that came with, and for some reason they keep sizing and resizing the image. I don't know what's going on there.
Oh, that's me.
There were copies that just came like this, which is why you're seeing this box. It just has a nice image with no marks or anything. There were also copies that came with a troll that was literally zip tied to the front of the box, and so those boxes will have 2 holes for the zip tie strap to come through and secure the doll to the box. So it came in, with troll, without troll, and then even the troll copies came in different colors of hair. So there's 4 or 5 different colors of hair. So if you want to have every variant of Trolls on Treasure Island, you need to have like, I don't know, 6 of them or something.
Yeah.
It's a hard pass.
And it's a rare game to start with. So you're really, getting into the weeds on variants if you want to get all of those.
One other
just not enough there for me to want to do it.
Really horrendous unlicensed release is this for the Genesis. So Realtek, I think Taiwanese company, had a few US releases, but all unlicensed, all pretty egregious in their art. The funny world up here, I kind of get it more, right? It's a bear, he's being shot, there's some balloons, I guess.
It's Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, but this one down here, it just has the kill me eyes. And I haven't figured out the signature right. It's signed. Somebody wanted to take credit for this. Somebody will figure out eventually, but unlicensed really was a special breed, a special brand of box art.
Yeah, I mean, you can just see the low budget, right? They're hiring people that are less expensive, and that's all there is to it. I mean, the lack of depth and the rendering, and it's not conceptually all that bad. Like, at least you could sort of tell what's going on. Like, okay, you're shooting a bear in the ass, you're popping some balloons with a gun. Maybe it's fun. I give this kind of better marks than some of the others that we've looked at. But yeah, to your point, unlicensed. If you pop open the list of, and not that we're going to do that right now, but if you were to pop open the list of the however many unlicensed games there are for the NES, somewhere around 100, and you go through that list, half of that list is just utter garbage for box art. Whereas if you do that with the license list, it's hard to find true stinkers on the 700, almost 700 licensed NES games. And I went through that exercise in advance of this, and Castle Dragon stands out, Mega Man stands out, but there aren't a lot that are just truly, truly egregious. Whereas we could have done a whole episode just on the unlicensed stuff easily.
Oh yeah, and I think like one we'll pull up here, and I'll turn it over to you, Coleman. This is one of yours. Of like, there's clearly a separation between like how bad the unlicensed stuff was, and then you have some trends in the license. But like, even something like this, you can have fans and haters. But I'll let you start, Coleman.
Yeah, I don't know. This one just kind of popped out to me when I saw it. As Dan was saying, there's a lot of great looking art of the licensed titles, and that's kind of mostly what I was personally looking through, and this one caught my eye. The more that if you see Amagon's amazing transformation into powerful Megagon. So, first of all, you're seeing both. That's the same guy on the box, which is sort of interesting to include both. Why they did that, I don't know. Yeah, some issues with like depth and stuff. It seems silly, but just like that front dark green area at their feet, you can see like his legs are behind it, but then the blue guy that's behind his legs is in front of the bush, and same with the skull. It's kind of an interesting little kind of bending of depth, but I don't know. I just wasn't in love with this one personally. Didn't speak to me.
So what maybe, I like is like,
I don't want to grind into it too hard, but
no. What I can say for its credit though is like, if I were a kid, this thing was kind of fun, right? I don't know the Amagon and Megagon and transformation. I think this kind of captures, right? I presume Amagon's a little one growing into the big one. Megagon like kind of captures that it's his transformation coming up, but at least compared to unlicensed and some of the other stinkers we've shown, like you've got some fun characters and pieces going on here. Like I can see a kid picking this up off the shelf.
Yeah. The funny thing is when he turns into Megagon, his gun disappears, so that he's just punching
He goes
everything.
primal.
So you're like, yeah, he goes primal and starts punching things, and you're like, okay, well
Loses
that's
the
cool, but I
shirt.
kind of yeah.
Do you notice the skull and that other blue thing are afraid of his crotch? Like they look up and they're like, "Oh dear God, what is that?"
That's good.
Poor placement.
Something that's just kind of I'm noticing for the first time, and this could be one of those situations where I'm making an association that has no business taking place, but it's reminiscent of like the Incredible Hulk 1 cover where you've got Dr. Bruce Banner, the little wiry scientist that, is turning into the Hulk, and it shows both the characters, like the one kind of turning into the other. So, and that's 1962. This is 1980. Ooh, I don't know, 9 or something. So, it's conceivable that, maybe the artist was aware of that image and looked to that, I wonder.
A little underground reference.
Well, it's not very underground. I mean, that's as mainstream as you can get, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I know we've been going on for a while. We certainly prepped a lot more images than we'll probably pull up. Ibrahim, anywhere else you'd like to go?
I don't know if you want to jump on to the 3D or just the lack of the box arts, flip pull, like there is no box art. What is this? Am I looking at pasta, spaghetti? What is it? There's nothing here. There's nothing for me to even complain about. Like there's no box art.
And you know what's weird is I think you can do no box art successfully. Like I think like the typography for the Japanese one here, I think this is.
I'd rather have
this. Is a good design. Right?
I'm gonna disagree. I think they're both terrible.
They're both terrible. Yeah, but there's nothing. There's no box art.
An exciting cube. Yeah, I mean, one says an exciting cube game, and the other says, what does it say? Totally cubular fun. I mean, okay. I mean, I guess I'm turning around and looking at screenshots.
If I'm gonna do nothing, I want the Japanese nothing versus the spaghetti.
That looks so generic. The Japanese nothing looks like a box of no-name dish soap at Walmart to me.
Can you go to Ocean's one? Because this is the same game plot. This is the same game.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the same game. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. Is that a Wakeland? Is that a Wakeland?
Yeah, it's a Bob Wakeland.
So
right,
he got it right.
And you can see the better artist. They're all getting the same prompt, and he's like, all right, I can sell this. And he does. So that's
you get the concept of the game too. You're like, okay, yeah, you match some stuff, and I get the game.
Yeah, I mean, these artists would have had like the game. They would have had screenshots. So they, if they're doing their job properly, they would have looked at it and they would have come up with some concept. Clearly, Bob Wakeland, did his job properly, whereas the other two guys just nothing.
Yeah, another one in that kind of almost kind of like, what were you thinking, right? So I mean, here's the same thing, right? Columns 3. I don't even know if there was a columns 2, right? But they had columns, right? They had art with the jewels and things, and they're like, all right, we've kind of got a concept here. Let's put a guy who's balding on top of a pile of these gems, and it just,
we should do another hunt. We could do a hunt for him.
He's probably the art graphic editor, whatever you want to call it, that did this concept. This is probably the guy.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, at the end of the day, clearly they didn't think through who the model should have been. I mean, they should have gotten a kid on there.
Yeah.
Rather than an adult. I mean, it looks ridiculous. But really, they should have just not used this concept at all. At all.
It's just bad design. So the other area we couldn't not touch on, right, is I don't know, we're going over here and stuff, but like all of the concepts for the SMS Sega Master System grid box art, right? And like you've got Pro Wrestling, here's Action Fighter, and so Pro Wrestling and Action Fighter were both two that AVGN kind of ragged on in that Christmas 2015 lead up series. And like, you know, you're kind of like, is it his own head? You know, what's going on there? And you take Action Fighter and you're like, this doesn't scream action or fighter or anything, right? It's a fucking It's like
it screams road detective.
Yeah.
It doesn't scream action fighter.
And then you get to something like Zillion, which it's well regarded. I know nothing about, but if I saw this, I would definitely still know nothing about it. Right? Like, you know, I don't see how this sells the game.
No, it looks like a microwave.
Yeah, I was thinking like a hospital kind of like heart rate or like some sort of apparatus in an emergency room, you know?
And so probably it's actually showing, you know, your heart or your items, your inventory, and it's maybe showing the complexity of the game, but it's poorly thought out. You know, they stuck to the concept. I think they only did this for about 2 years, maybe 86 and 87. And some of them are better, right? So like Fantasy Zone 2. Like I think these games, you kind of get a sense of what it is. You feel that it could be fun. You take the sports ones like basketball and you're like, okay, it's basketball. I know what it is. In my mind, you know, these aren't too much different than what the NES did with their early the pixel art and stuff. But this is just the Nintendo just had a much better execution, right? The games looked fun, right? This looked almost like educational software, right? With the design choice.
Yeah, I'm glad
it didn't convey enough. It didn't convey enough information. I mean, the only ones that, you know, look fun or that look compelling are the ones that are utterly self-explanatory, like basketball and wrestling, where just the title tells you what it's going to be. It's sports, you know what that is. You know, Fantasy Zone and Action Fighter and, you know, the rest of these where, you know, it's a new concept. There's just zero information conveyed. Like, I mean, I guess Fantasy Zone, at least, you know, you're in a spaceship and you're going to be shooting things. And so maybe that'll be fun. But some of the other ones, like there's just no information at all on the box. And that can't be good for selling units or getting people interested. And looking back on it now, you know, all these years later, it just has not aged well at all. The typography is still cool. Like the overall design of, you know, the blue type and, you know, the Sega on the bottom right and whatever, like it's still appealing more or less. But, you know, the art itself is rough. It just, there's not enough information there.
I'm surprised it took them 2 years to figure that out.
Yeah.
And, you know, despite that, when some of these games got reissues, they came out 86, 87, then they came back out in 89, 90, something like that. Some of them they didn't update the art. They printed the exact same thing and then did a little banner up in the top to say top seller or something like that. And maybe with the budget release, you don't want to spend money on new art. But yeah, I mean, just kind of, you know, weird design choice, right? And I think it probably hurt. I'm sure it hurt Sega, right? And that like, we didn't really see Sega versus Nintendo be a thing until NES is out and hugely successful. Genesis comes out and is the main rival to NES, you know, stronger hardware, better titles, more colors, all this stuff comes out. And then the Super Nintendo releases and they're probably, you know, Sega had its moment there versus the NES and then the SNES. But I mean, I think here early on, I mean, Nintendo clearly won, and I'm sure Sega hurt themselves with this marketing.
Yep. So, guys, I know we're running out of time. Can we maybe, like, I'm going to suggest we touch on digital horror and then end strong with that one last Capcom title.
Yeah, which is so I can pull up some of our digital horror, so to say, and then you have to remind me. Yeah,
I mean, as a kid, like if you're trying to buy a game, I mean, we all know sex sells. Is this what they were trying to achieve? Like, they were trying to put out. Is she a hot nurse, like a busty hot nurse? What is this?
Is she a she?
Yeah. What's going on?
I mean, I do love the fact that she's clubbing someone with a fish. I mean,
She's
that
got
is awesome.
she's got the super bass fish, and she's like, "Bring it on."
That's not a bass.
What's
Oh, okay.
what's-
Sorry, sorry,
what's-
Dad. Was it a trout?
Hard
What's
to
funny
tell,
is-
but it could be.
You know, Ibrahim was probably talking about the figure on the right to start, but it was so ambiguous that Dan assumed you were talking about the
one-
ogre
yeah.
female on the left.
Hey, you were talking about the figure.
Oh.
That
No,
is
this is-
funny.
I mean, I know, like, N64 era, you think digital art, it's great. Let's do that. Super Nintendo did it successfully with Donkey Kong Country, and N64 did it successfully with so many others. This one, however, is not one of them. It's blurry. It's the still image they've captured it's not I don't know. They just they did it wrong. They should have done those characters, screen captured them, and then put them on. But it looks like they captured this in the motion, and it's just does not work, unfortunately.
Also, look at the shadows of all the letters, like particularly at the right of the H and the left of the E on chess.
Yeah.
Like, why is that whole area? There's no light between those, and then there's. Do you see what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how they must have like captured every letter separately, you know?
Yeah, they're trying to turn them all different directions and show the shading in different directions to make it look wacky, I guess. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I will give it that. Like, it's so preposterous that it looks like it might be fun until you then realize, wait, we're talking about chess. How wacky is it really going to be? So, but yeah, I mean, you've got this giant guy or girl in a bra and then these pigtails and lipstick smashing a fish with nail polish. Like, I'm so confused. It's
a virtual mess.
It is. And then the woman on the right, presuming it's a woman, has got the unibrow, and the weird face where it's kind of a masculine pointed face. You don't quite know what's going on anywhere. Let's move on. This one's crazy.
Yeah. So the other couple ones, and these are Super Nintendo, but you've got Lawnmower Man, and this is apparently pretty much fucking what the movie poster looked like. It's probably pretty accurate to whatever the movie was, but
well, I think I saw that image on a telephone pole outside my neighborhood at the time. Warning of a child molester in the neighborhood. I think I saw that.
This gives me nightmares.
It's
Nightmare
like
fuel.
all okay, I get it. It's shitty digital graphics that haven't aged well, but out of all the renderings and where you choose to screen capture, which one you want to use? Oh my fucking god! The Super Nintendo one is beyond terrible. Like all the bad choices you could make, right? So all right. I don't like it, but the Genesis one, if I'm choosing between these two. All right. If I'm going to make an ad for a magazine, okay, it's kind of cool, maybe. But good Lord.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that there's like some salty art director somewhere that is pissed about things going digital and wants things to stay traditional and picks the worst image he can?
Interesting take.
I mean, it seems like it would be a bad idea career-wise, but, it makes you wonder if they were motivated to find the best digital image they could. I mean, ooh.
Awful.
So, Dan, you said there was one final Capcom one maybe you wanted to end on.
Yes, sir. It is my favorite or one of my favorite franchises, Ghosts and Goblins, and this is the release by Elite in Europe. I don't even know what system or whatever it was for. I think it was PC or something. And, we all know Ghosts and Goblins. We know that it's, you're a knight, you're trying to rescue your girl, you're given various weapons, you're attacked by Firebrand. We talked about being on the cover of Demon's Crest and Gargoyle's Quest 2 and other games. And look at Firebrand. Like, what on earth is that?
Is that
It's
Firebrand?
like a guy. Yeah, that's Firebrand. That's Firebrand, except it looks like a guy in a cheap werewolf costume at Halloween, and he's got a cape. He's got a cape instead of, like, how Firebrand's got the wings, so he's got the sort of meshing underneath the arms that help, flap the wings so that he can fly. The artist has somehow missed the fact that it's supposed to be wings, and he's given a werewolf a cape. Like, it is so incredibly ridiculous. And then you've got, the Venus flytrap from the Little Shop of Horrors at the top left, and I don't know what's going on with the face or the body poses of anyone. I mean, it is just such a cluster. The only thing that is halfway okay is the people coming up out of the ground, or they've got their arms kind of out rigid, and that's kind of appropriate. But it is just such an amazing display of lack of skill and such a miss on what the game is supposed to be that it boggles the mind.
Well, what it tells
is you brought up that his nose is just totally slammed underneath his ironclad. That's what it looks like to me, anyway.
Yeah, and this is
look, he's just like pressed.
And some of this, right? I think as you look at why, how did this happen, right? So we showed you earlier, Bob Wakelin doing that game Plotting, right, for Taito, and so I think these were, so this here is a officially licensed coin-op classic from Capcom, right? So I mean, you would get, and Ocean did this, right, and they would license arcade titles from Japan and give them a Western distribution because no one had bought the rights, and they took a chance and they'd sell some good box art for it. So I'm sure Elite was doing the same thing, right? Where they say, oh, here's this arcade title. We'll get the license to it. We'll put it out, right? So again, this is probably, enough years ahead of when Capcom started doing their own distribution in Europe. So Elite buys it up and just, surely, right? No supervision, no input. They kind of bought the rights, got to do whatever they wanted. And that's what we get.
Yeah, I like the way that the claws on the feet, they don't come out; they're just hanging straight down. And the ones on the hands are kind of tucked in. Like, nothing makes any logical sense. There's no fingers or toes. There's just like it. How do you get hired if this is your skill set? How do you get hired?
I think
are you someone's relative? Are you, like, how does this happen? I don't get it.
I think, it all comes back to budget, right? I mean, I'm sure Elite, they pay whatever they pay for the license, and they're like, all right, crank out as many units as we can. And forgot to have an art budget.
Yeah, it could be they were short of time.
It's such a great game. And then on the NES, it's known as, one of the pieces of classic box art. And so, I think it's kind of a fun one to end on because, if you haven't seen this one, you're seeing the exact sort of flip side of the coin. Same title, but just night and day treatment between Europe and then the NES, box art that we all got and love. It's hard to believe it's the same game, but somehow it is.
Yeah.
So, guys, this has been fun. It's been a good time kind of going through and picking out some of the stinkers from history. And, it's not going to be a focus of the podcast. Maybe we'll do it again at some point. Who knows? But I've had fun kind of going through these with you guys. So hopefully everyone listening has enjoyed it as well. And closing remarks, guys?
Let us know your favorites / least favorites as well. Always fun to hear about more terrible / fantastic artwork that's out there.
Let me make one closing remark. I just want to reiterate for everyone that hasn't seen that AVGN 2015 Bad Box Art series, go through that. That's a hell of a lot of fun. And he makes a lot of good kind of comments and quips over the course of that. And you'll probably see some other ones that you haven't been aware of and that we haven't touched on. So that is a lot of fun. Go through that.
All right. Awesome. Well, we'll close it out there. See you later, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.